I was trying to get my 6-year-old daughter ready for school outside a family shelter when a black sedan pulled to the curb. My grandmother stepped out, looked at us and asked, "Why aren't you living in your house on Hawthorne Street?" I froze. What house? 3 days later, I walked into a family dinner and my parents went pale. What had they been hiding from me? 6 in the morning always felt colder outside the family shelter. The sky was gray, the kind of gray that made everything look unfinished. My breath hung in front of me while I crouched beside Sophie and tried to solve the problem of her socks. One was pink with a faded unicorn, the other was white, or at least it had been white once. "It's okay, Mom, nobody looks at socks." I smiled because she was trying to make my life easier, and no 6-year-old should have to know how to do that. "Then you're officially ahead of the fashion world." She grinned. For a few seconds, we were just a mother and daughter getting ready for school. Then she pulled on her backpack and asked, "What do I say if Mrs. Carter asks for our address again?" The smile left my face. I looked past her at the shelter sign over the entrance. I had learned how to say temporary so many times that the word had stopped sounding real. Before I could answer, a black sedan eased up to the curb. It did not belong there. The rear door opened, and my grandmother stepped out. She wore a dark coat buttoned to the throat. Her posture was straight, her expression controlled. Then she saw me. She saw Sophie. Finally, she looked up at the words, "Family Shelter." Something in her face changed. "Rachel, what are you doing here?" My first instinct was the same one I had used for months. "Hide it. We're fine." She looked at my cracked hands, then at Sophie's backpack, then at the shelter behind us. "Why aren't you living in the house on Hawthorne Street?" For a second, I thought I had heard her wrong. "What house?" Sophie tugged on my sleeve. "Mom, do we have a house?" I could not answer her. My grandmother stared at me long enough that I stopped feeling embarrassed and started feeling afraid. "Get in the car," she said. Inside, the heat hit my face and almost hurt. Sophie sat beside me, holding her backpack against her chest, while my grandmother made a call. I only heard pieces. Who received the keys? Who is living there now? Is the property being rented? Then silence. My grandmother's jaw tightened. Someone was living there. In a house I did not know existed. I used to think homelessness always began with unemployment, addiction, or one terrible decision. I did not know it could begin with a security deposit you could not afford and a relative telling you that you could always count on family. My grandmother ended the call and looked at me. "By tonight I'll know who did this." For the first time in months, a thought came to me that felt almost dangerous. Maybe everything that had happened was not proof that I had failed. Maybe someone had helped make sure I did. And to understand why the words "your house on Hawthorne" nearly made me forget how to breathe, I have to go back 6 months to when I still believed my parents were helping me. 6 months earlier, I still believed hard work could solve almost anything. I worked 12-hour shifts at the hospital, changing sheets, helping older patients out of bed, answering call lights that seemed to go off the second I sat down. Some days, lunch was a cold sandwich eaten in the break room while I checked apartment listings on my phone. I was not doing nothing. I was working. I was raising Sophie. I was paying my parents what I could each month. But one paycheck had to stretch across rent, childcare, groceries, gas, and the kind of surprise expenses that never seem surprised to see you. When my lease ended, I could not afford another deposit, so Sophie and I moved into my parents' apartment. At first, Mom made it sound temporary and simple. Stay as long as you need. Family helps family. I believed her. For the first few weeks, I tried to make myself small enough not to inconvenience anyone. I cleaned the kitchen before work. I folded Sophie's blankets every morning. I kept her toys in one plastic bin because Dad liked the living room to look untouched. Then the comments started. Mom would look at me after a shift and say I always seemed exhausted. Sometimes she added that maybe better organization would help. Dad would move one of Sophie's shoes and remind me that they were only trying to keep the apartment nice. None of it sounded cruel enough on its own. That was part of the problem. The hardest kind of control to recognize rarely begins with shouting. It begins as advice. Then advice becomes judgment. And one day, you realize you are asking permission to exist inside your own family. I thought about calling Grandma once. Mom stopped me before I finished a sentence. Your grandmother hates drama. Don't burden her. So I didn't. Instead, I worked more. I took extra shifts. I searched for apartments during lunch. I told myself that if I became more organized, more patient, less tired, the tension would ease. I was turning other people's cruelty into a problem I thought I could fix. After a double shift one evening, Mom asked me to sit at the kitchen table. She said they thought it was time I became independent. I reminded her that I was looking every day. She gave me that soft, disappointed look I knew too well. You're a mother. At some point, you have to figure things out. Dad folded his hands. 30 days is reasonable. I wanted to argue. Instead, I nodded. 30 days. I marked the date on my phone calendar. But my parents did not wait until then. They did not wait until day 30. I came home close to midnight after another long shift. The hallway outside my parents' apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the ceiling light. 2 cardboard boxes sat beside the door. Mine. I tried the handle. Locked. I knocked once, then again. After a moment, Mom opened the door only a few inches. It hasn't been 30 days. She did not look angry. That almost made it worse. Plans change. Then I saw past her. Sophie was asleep on the floor beside the shoe rack. Her little coat was folded under her head like a pillow. One shoe had come loose. For a second, I could not move. I had spent the whole day helping strangers feel safe in hospital beds, and my own daughter was sleeping on a hallway floor because her grandparents had decided we were inconvenient. I picked her up. She stirred against my shoulder. Are we going somewhere? Just a little sleepover? That was the first lie I told to protect her from the truth. What hurt more was realizing, weeks later, that Sophie had started doing the same thing for me. She would say she was not hungry when she knew money was tight. She would say she liked the car because she could see the moon. That first night, we slept in the parking lot of a 24-hour grocery store. Then came a few motel nights. Then my card balance dropped low enough that every gas station stop felt like arithmetic. I kept working. Sophie's school counselor noticed she had gone quiet. When she asked me if everything was okay, I gave the answer I had been giving everyone. Everything is fine, she asked again. This time, Sophie was watching me. So I told the truth. 2 days later, I sat across from an intake worker at a family shelter. Where did you sleep last night? My car. Sophie looked around the room. Is this our house now? No, sweetheart, it's temporary. Temporary had become a word I no longer trusted. The hardest part was not asking for help. It was realizing I had still been protecting the reputation of the people who left us outside their door. I texted Mom and asked if Grandma knew. Her reply came almost immediately. She's busy. Don't drag her into this. I believed her. Because I thought my parents had only taken away our place to sleep, I had no idea they had taken something that already belonged to us. The diner was 10 minutes from the shelter, but it felt like another country. The windows were fogged from the heat. Coffee and syrup hung in the air. Sophie sat across from me with a kid's menu, coloring a cartoon pancake purple while hot chocolate steamed beside her. The heater blew warm air against my hands. I almost cried. Not because anything dramatic had happened. Because I was warm and my daughter was warm. And for a few minutes, nobody was asking where we would sleep that night. Grandma waited until Sophie was busy coloring before she took out her phone. "I'm going to call your mother," she said. "Just listen." She put the call on speaker. Mom answered on the second ring, cheerful and easy. Grandma asked, "Susan, how is Rachel doing?" There was the smallest pause. Then Mom said, "She's doing great." My stomach tightened. "She settled into the Hawthorne house," Mom continued. "She wanted some space. I didn't want to bother you." I stared at the tabletop. People who lie because they panic usually need a second to build the story. My mother did not need one. That was how I knew this was not a lie she had invented that morning. It was a story she had been living with for a long time. Grandma ended the call without accusing her. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she explained. The house on Hawthorne Street had been purchased through a family trust. It was meant for Sophie and me to live in. Mom had been given limited authority to receive the keys, arrange utilities, and coordinate our move. Nothing more. She had no authority to rent it. I finally asked the question sitting in my throat. "Why didn't you call me?" Grandma looked down at her coffee. "I should have called you myself." Then she looked back at me. "Your mother told me you wanted distance. She said you were embarrassed and didn't want anyone interfering." I felt something inside me shift. Mom had told me Grandma hated drama. She had told Grandma that I wanted to be left alone. For months, she had kept us apart by giving each of us a version of the other that was believable enough. For the first time, I stopped asking what I had done wrong. Maybe I had not been too disorganized, too proud, or too difficult. Maybe I had been guided toward believing that. Grandma's phone buzzed. An email from Daniel. She opened it and turned the screen toward me. It was a rental listing, Hawthorne Street. I stared at the bedroom in one of the photos, the room my daughter could have been sleeping in months earlier. Beneath the picture was a line that made my hands go cold. Available August 1. Available August 1. I read the date twice. Grandma called Daniel, and within an hour he had sent over the first set of records. There was nothing dramatic about them, no secret recording, no hidden camera, just paperwork. That somehow made it worse. The key log showed that Mom had received the keys to the Hawthorne Street house. The rental listing showed the property went on the market a few weeks later. Then came the document that changed the shape of everything. Daniel opened his laptop and turned it toward me. Authorization to lease. My name was at the top. I kept reading until I reached the bottom. There was a signature. It looked enough like mine that, from a distance, someone might not question it. I did. "That's not my signature." I did not shout. I did not need to. Daniel explained it carefully. The document had been submitted from an account connected to Mom, and the file information did not match any email address I had ever used. He kept the explanation simple. "Someone submitted your name and signature to make it appear you approved the rental." I stared at the screen. I used to think stealing meant taking something out of your hands. I had never considered another kind. Someone could hide something you did not even know you had, profit from it, and still make you feel grateful for whatever scraps they chose to give you. Then Daniel opened the payment records. $2,450 every month. More than once. The payout account belonged to Mom and Dad. That hurt more than the false signature. While I had been standing in grocery aisles deciding whether cereal could wait until payday, the house meant for Sophie had been bringing in rent. While I watched the gas gauge and wondered if I could make it through another week, money from that house was landing in my parents' account. While Sophie slept beside me under a shelter blanket, Her grandparents were collecting $2,450 a month from the place where she should have been sleeping. For a long time, I said nothing. Then something in me settled. I stopped asking why. Why had they done it? Why had Mom lied? Why had Dad gone along with it? Those questions suddenly felt less important than the one that came next. What do we do now? Grandma looked at me differently after that. Not like someone waiting to be rescued, like someone who had finally stood up. Daniel turned the laptop toward her. There's enough here to revoke their authority immediately. Grandma nodded once. Then she looked at me. There's a family dinner in 3 days. I knew exactly what she was thinking. What do you need tonight? Grandma asked. I looked at Sophie, sitting beside me with both hands around her backpack strap. Somewhere Sophie can sleep. That was all. Grandma booked us a room for a few nights while Daniel worked through the Hawthorne Street paperwork. Sophie treated the hotel like a vacation. She bounced on the mattress twice, then picked up the little bar of soap, smelled it, and asked if we were allowed to keep it. I think that's the idea, I told her. That night, I watched her sleep under clean white sheets. For the first time in weeks, there were no strangers talking through a shelter wall, no crying baby down the hall, no footsteps outside our door. Sophie slept. I did not. Grandma sat with me near the window and explained the family dinner. It had been planned for weeks. Mom and Dad had helped organize it. They had also been telling relatives they were helping Grandma manage family matters, including the house on Hawthorne Street. Most of the family believed Sophie and I were already living there. That mattered. And this was not about humiliating my parents. It was about correcting a lie in front of the people they had lied to. I still hated the idea. What if they say I'm doing this for money? They probably will. What if everybody believes them? Grandma looked at me. Then facts will have to work harder than gossip. Daniel prepared the documents quietly. Mom's authority would be revoked. A full accounting would be demanded. Records would be preserved. Repayment would be requested. About the false signature, he only said, that document will be referred for review. No threats. No police waiting in a hallway. Just paper, dates, and consequences. I made one decision without asking anyone. Sophie would not be in that room. Grandma arranged for a trusted assistant to stay with her nearby, with snacks, a coloring book, and headphones. I had spent months reacting to whatever happened next. This time, I was choosing what my daughter would not have to see. On the day of the dinner, I stood before the hotel mirror in a simple dress. I feel like I need armor. Grandma adjusted my sleeve. You don't need armor. You need dignity. I used to think strength had to feel strong. That morning, strength felt like nausea, and walking forward anyway. Outside the ballroom, Grandma stopped. You first. I understood. My parents needed to see me before they saw who was standing behind me. I walked in. The room kept talking for a few seconds. Then Mom saw me. Her smile stopped. Dad turned. The wine glass in Mom's hand froze halfway to her mouth. For the first time in months, I wasn't the one wondering what would happen next. They were. Mom lowered her wine glass and walked toward me with a smile wide enough to reassure anyone watching. Rachel, what a surprise. It was not a greeting. It was damage control. Her eyes moved past me. Where's Sophie? She's safe. A few relatives had started watching, so Mom raised her voice just enough for them to hear. I wish you'd told us you were coming. Everyone's been worried about you. Then she gave them the version of me she wanted everyone to believe. She said they had tried to give me stability, but I insisted on doing everything the hard way. When an aunt asked where I was living, Mom answered first. She's been moving around. Then came the sentence that nearly broke my calm. When you have a child, pride has consequences. There is a special kind of cruelty in watching the person who caused the wound stand before a crowd and ask why you are bleeding. I looked at her. Are you sure that's the version you want everyone to hear? Her smile slipped. Dad stepped in and guided me a few feet away. Leave before you embarrass yourself. I did not move. His voice dropped. You really want people asking why your 6-year-old ended up in a shelter when she had family willing to help? I stared at him. He had been there the night the door stayed locked. Then he added, a court wouldn't be impressed by that either. People who control you long enough learn exactly which button to press. Mine was always Sophie. I could survive insults, but if they made me afraid I might lose my daughter, I used to go quiet. Not this time. You should be very careful what you say next. Dad gave a short laugh. Is that a threat? A voice behind him answered. No, Paul, it's advice. Grandma had entered. Daniel stood beside her with a laptop bag and a thin folder. Mom went pale. Dad stopped talking. Grandma looked directly at Mom. You told me Rachel was living on Hawthorne Street. The room quieted. Mom tried to smile. Mom, this isn't the place. Grandma did not raise her voice. You made it the place when you lied to everyone in it. That was when I understood something. Reputation only has power when everyone agrees to protect the secret underneath it. My parents had counted on my shame to keep me silent. I was not ashamed anymore. If you're still listening, please tell me in the comments how satisfied you are with the story so far, so I know there are still people walking beside me through this journey. Your presence is my greatest encouragement to keep telling the final part. Daniel set his laptop beside the projector. Grandma looked at Mom. Let's stop arguing about memories. She nodded toward the screen. Let's look at records. The projector flickered to life. Daniel did not give us a speech. He opened the first file and let the page speak for itself. It showed the house on Hawthorne Street, 2 bedrooms, red brick, a narrow upstairs window facing the front yard. Daniel explained that the house belonged to the family trust and that Sophie and I had been designated to live there. It was not Mom's property. It was not Dad's property. I barely heard the legal explanation. I kept looking at that upstairs window. I wondered if that was supposed to be Sophie's room. The next page showed the key release. Date, signature, name, Susan Morgan. Mom spoke quickly. I was handling it for her. Grandma answered without raising her voice. Exactly. Handling it, not owning it. Daniel moved to the rental listing. There were pictures of the living room, the kitchen, and a small bedroom near the stairs. Then I saw the lamp. Months earlier, Grandma had mentioned buying a little bedside lamp for Sophie, pale blue, with tiny stars around the shade. There it was, sitting beside a bed that belonged to somebody else's child. That hurt, in a way I had not expected. Mom said I had not been ready to move, and that they were only trying to make the property useful. You never told me it existed. She turned toward the relatives watching us. She forgets things when she's under stress. I almost answered. Then I stopped. I had spent too many years defending myself against explanations she had invented for me. Daniel changed the page. Authorization to lease. My name was printed at the top. Below it was an electronic signature. I looked at it for several seconds. That's not my signature. This time, I did not need Grandma to speak for me. Daniel explained that the document had been submitted as though I had approved the rental. She did not, he said. The source records have been preserved for review. There is a difference between someone speaking for you and someone creating paperwork to make their words look like yours. One is manipulation. The other is an attempt to turn manipulation into a record. The room had gone completely quiet. Mom finally said it was only temporary. Daniel did not answer. He changed to the final slide. Rent disbursements. The first number appeared. $2,450. Then another. Then another. And that was when I understood. They had not only hidden a house from us, they had been making money from the fact that we could not live in it. The numbers kept coming. Daniel did not read every payment. He did not need to. He showed the date, the amount, and the account that received it. $2,450. Then another payment. Then another. The account belonged to Mom and Dad. I stared at the first number, but I was not thinking about money. I was thinking about the cheapest box of cereal on a grocery shelf. The gaslight glowing while I tried to make it to payday, Sophie coughing one night while I stood in a drugstore aisle, wondering if medicine could wait. And I was thinking about the shelter bed where she had slept beside me. Grandma looked at Mom and Dad. While Sophie was sleeping in a family shelter, you were collecting rent from the home meant for her. She did not raise her voice. She did not have to. Mom's face changed. We had debts. Dad stepped in. We were going to put it back. That was when I noticed something about people who take what is not theirs. They love the future tense. We were going to tell you. We were going to repay it. We were going to fix it. The future is an easy place to store a promise you never planned to keep. Dad looked around the room. If Rachel had been more responsible, none of this would have mattered. A few relatives reacted at once. I did not need them to defend me. I worked 12-hour shifts while you collected rent from my daughter's house. Don't use the word responsible with me. Grandma turned to Daniel. Mom's authority over the property was revoked immediately. Daniel would demand a full accounting. The rental money would have to be repaid, and every related record would be preserved. Grandma also made it clear that she would be changing her revocable trust. No threats, just consequences. Mom turned to me. You're really going to let her destroy this family? And that was when I heard what was missing. She still had not said she was sorry. She only wanted me to stop what was happening to her. You didn't lose this family tonight. You lost it when you decided Sophie could sleep in a shelter as long as the rent kept coming. I walked out before anyone could answer. Accountability was not revenge. I did not need to hurt them. I only needed to stop protecting them from what they had done. In the room down the hall, Sophie looked up from her coloring book. Mom, are we done? I pulled her into my arms. Yeah, sweetheart, we're done. She leaned back. Can we go home now? Can we go home? Sophie asked it so simply that, for a second, I almost said yes. I looked at Grandma. She did not soften the truth. Not tonight. Daniel explained why. The family living on Hawthorne Street had signed their lease in good faith. They had paid their rent on time. They had no idea I existed, no idea Sophie and I had been meant to live there, and no part in what my parents had done. My first reaction was anger. They're living in my daughter's room. The words came out before I could stop them. Then I looked at Daniel. Did they know? No. That answer changed everything. I thought about the night my parents' door stayed locked. I thought about Sophie sleeping in my car, then in a motel, then under a shelter blanket while I told her everything was temporary. I knew what it felt like when a door closed and you had nowhere else to go. I was not going to heal my own wound by handing that feeling to another family. Then we don't throw them out. Daniel nodded. He worked with the tenants and the trust to find a reasonable solution. They could stay through an agreed date, or move voluntarily with proper help if that worked better for them. The trust would cover the costs that were fair. Nothing happened overnight. And strangely, that helped me. For a while, Grandma kept us in a short-term place. I found a temporary apartment after that. I went back to work. Sophie went back to school. There were lunches to pack, uniforms to wash, bills to pay, and mornings when I was still tired. My life did not turn into a fairy tale because someone found paperwork with my name on it. I still had to rebuild it, but something was different. Mom had looked at a house and seen income. I looked at the people inside it and saw a family that mattered to me. Dignity, I was learning, was not about getting everything back as fast as possible. Sometimes it meant refusing to become the kind of person who had hurt you. A few weeks later, my phone rang while I was folding Sophie's laundry. I knew the number before I looked. Mom. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I answered. The first thing Mom said was, "We need to talk." For one small second, I let myself hope. Maybe she had finally understood what she had done. Maybe losing Grandma's support, facing the accounting, and watching relatives stop returning calls had forced something honest out of her. So I asked the only question that mattered. "Are you calling to apologize?" There was a pause. Then she said, "This is bigger than an apology." And just like that, the hope was gone. She started talking about debt. Legal fees, money Grandma was no longer sending relatives who had suddenly become too busy to answer the phone. She said everything was getting out of control. Then she said the sentence that told me exactly why she had called. "You could fix this." I sat there with Sophie's little shirts folded beside me and understood something clearly. Mom still did not see me as her daughter. She saw me as a resource, someone who could absorb the cost of her choices one more time. I did not argue. I did not list every lie, every payment, every night Sophie and I had spent wondering where we would sleep. I only said, "I can't fix consequences you created." Mom's voice sharpened. "So that's it? After everything we've done for you?" People who want control have excellent memories for everything they ever gave you. Strangely, they often forget what they took. I ended the call. Then I blocked the number. There was no feeling of victory. I sat quietly on the edge of the couch and stared at my phone. Cutting someone off can be the right decision and still hurt. Some right decisions do not feel powerful. They simply make the room quieter. And if you have lived inside chaos long enough, quiet can feel like guilt before it starts to feel like peace. A few days later, Grandma came by. She did not defend herself. She did not blame Mom. She simply said, "I should have checked on you." I believed that apology because it did not ask anything from me. A real apology does not hand the injured person another job to do. Months passed. Then one afternoon, Daniel called. Hawthorne Street was ready. Sophie knew nothing. I picked her up after school, buckled her into the back seat, and started driving. 6 months later, Hawthorne Street had become ordinary. That was the best thing about it. The house was not a mansion. It was a 2-bedroom brick place with a small kitchen, a maple tree out front, and a bedroom Sophie claimed before we finished carrying in the first box. She picked the curtains herself. Her drawings went up crooked, and I left them that way. For so long, I had measured life by what could go wrong next. Now I measured it by school mornings, grocery lists, laundry, and whether Sophie remembered her shoes. I was still working as a certified nursing assistant and taking classes toward becoming a registered nurse. The difference was that I worked to build a future, not because every paycheck decided where we might sleep next week. Grandma came by most weekends with pastries and pretended she was only there to see Sophie. One afternoon, Sophie dropped her school folder on the kitchen table. Near the top was a line that made me stop. Home address. Months earlier, she had asked what she should say if Mrs. Carter asked where we lived. This time, she had not asked me anything. She had written it herself. Hawthorne Street. The letters leaned slightly to one side. One was too big. Another looked ready to fall over. I did not correct a thing. I used to think home was an address, a deed, or a key in your hand. Now I think a house becomes a home when the child inside it no longer wonders if she will still be there tomorrow. Blood can make people relatives, but what they do when you are vulnerable tells you who your family really is. Grandma became family through what she did, not what she owned. She believed me. She admitted where she had failed. She protected Sophie without trying to control me. My parents made different choices. If your own parents had hidden a home meant for your child and collected rent while you lived in a shelter, would you ever allow them back into your life? And most importantly, were you satisfied with the way I chose truth, boundaries, and dignity instead of revenge? I'd truly like to know what you would have done in my place.